All right, guys, how's everyone doing today? We are back with another video. I know it's been a little while, and we are branching out into some different content. I've had some new ideas lately that I think would be a lot more useful, maybe a bit more entertaining than the solely Reddit-based commentary that we've been doing pretty much entirely up to this point. But uh, another thing that I'm really interested in, and obviously is kind of on the frontier of both culture and technology, is the whole artificial intelligence thing and tools and the resources that are arising as a result of all of these developments in AI technology. But one thing that I've been thinking about recently is, and in messing around a little bit more and more often with chat, I found myself asking, okay, I wonder how well a system like this could handle matters and inquiries surrounding things like mental health, and maybe even branching out into the realm of therapy and therapy based AI interaction. And I know there's some programs that I think are being designed for that very purpose. I know there's apps and apps and websites and stuff like that that you can go on that are similar in this way. But I'm wondering, like, if something as simple as chat, even just the normal chat GPT without any plugins, would be capable of effectively helping someone, if even a little bit, which is better than nothing at all. And there's obviously a lot of people out there who don't have access to therapy, and they might not always have access to the resources. And therapists aren't perfect either. And obviously, neither is artificial intelligence. But, with the idea being with therapy, that through communicating maybe some of the conscious and subconscious issues that you face on a day-to-day basis with someone, or out loud at least, you can ideally see those things more clearly and how they are realistically affecting you. And you can also envision how to overcome those things and move past them. And that can be true for habits, trauma, depression, all sorts of things. A lot of that just comes down to widening your perspective enough to envision yourself overcoming those things. And that's all it takes a lot of times. It's just a lot more complicated than that, but sometimes something like that can be the catalyst for actually making progress when it comes to mental health problems. So what we're just going to do some stress testing with chat to see how well it can gauge and handle these questions, specifically in a way that is sensitive to someone who is asking it in the capacity of mental health engagement or therapy based conversation. So that's going to be one factor that we judge chat's responses on, and we're also just going to see in general how well it provides maybe a solution, or a useful perspective to someone who might be facing a specific issue. So let's start out. I'm just going to ask it, are you capable? Questions. All right. So it's on board. Disclaimer that it's not a licensed therapist. Looks good so far. All right. So what scenario can we think of? Like, let's take something really broad. Okay. Like let's start really broad and ask it something like, I've been dealing with what feels like depression lately. Debilitating depression. I have a job, family, and can't, and there seems to be no reason I can't feel happy or normal? Do you have any insight that might help me understand and improve this situation? I've been dealing with what feels like debilitating depression lately. I have a job, family, and there seems to be no reason I can't feel happy or normal. Do you have any insight that might help me understand and improve this situation? Chat response. I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through this. It's important to remember that depression is a complex and multifaceted condition that can affect anyone regardless of their circumstances. Here are some insights and strategies that might help you understand and improve your situation. Okay, understanding depression. Biological factors. Sometimes depression can be linked to biological factors such as genetics, brain chemistry, hormonal imbalances. You can't always control it with willpower alone. Psychological factors. Negative thought patterns, low self esteem, chronic stress can contribute to depression. Social factors. Isolation, lack of support, difficult relationships can exacerbate feelings of depression. That's pretty descriptive, pretty general. All right. Actual steps to improve your situation. Seek professional help. That's kind of a cop out answer because we're asking you, we want to know what you can do to help, to talk about it. Sharing your feelings. I'd say that's also kind of a cop out answer. Um, but maybe with chat, you will give it a benefit of the doubt by deferring to human interaction, because right now it probably is ideal to do those two things: professional help and talk with people close to you. But knowing we're in the capacity of seeing what chat can do, we're going to give it a pass with those first two ones. So, healthy lifestyle choices, exercise, diet, and sleep. That is very true. And any therapist will likely point those things out initially in terms of things you can address if there isn't anything else obvious in a situation that might be similar to this. Mindfulness and relaxation, meditation and breathing. Also, pretty basic things, things that a healthcare professional would probably bring up with you. Grounding mechanisms, things you can do within the present moment to kind of recenter you and get your mind off of the neurotic feelings. Small goals. Break down tasks into smaller, manageable steps. It's a good one. Engage in enjoyable activities. Limit alcohol and avoid drugs. Responsible AI. Responsible chat. Stay connected. Maintain social connections. Yeah, that's similar to talk. Reflection. Okay, I like this one a lot actually. Journaling and identity triggers. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you process and gain insights into your mental state. This is probably personally this is one of the most effective things I think you can do when it comes to a situation like this, understanding difficulties you might be facing that aren't obvious and learning how you can overcome them effectively. And writing those things down, even if you think you have nothing to gain from writing, realistically it memorializes some of these things that are floating around in your mind, and you can latch on to them and build off of them. You can flesh out your thoughts, and it might not feel like it, but that's what writing is. I mean, you're building out a thought, and you can have certain insights while you're doing something like this that you might not get while just sitting there or just thinking, going about your day-to-day activities. So at very least, I would suggest trying this. I think that's a great one, even if it's at the bottom there. And this one seems obvious, but it's pretty accurate as well. If there are things you can identify that are directly contributing to the negative emotions that you're feeling, people don't, you know, a lot of times they're looking for cheat codes. They're looking for like one size fits all advice, but realistically, like chat laid out earlier, it can be a multifaceted issue. And a really good first step is, yeah, identifying and limiting the things in your immediate environment which are contributing to that stress that you're feeling. So I think these are strong answers as well. And as a closure here, obviously, if you have any thoughts of self-harm, it's good to seek immediate help, professional or crisis hotline. Your safety is a top priority, and I can respect that. Remember, recovery from depression is a process, and it's okay to seek help and take it one step at a time. You're not alone, and there are resources and people who can support you through this. So, for as general of a question as we asked, I'm pretty satisfied with that answer. It's nothing very specific. It's nothing very nuanced, but it is probably the priority checklist of things you might want to look at or think about if you want to deal with something like depression in a general way. All right, let's give it something a little bit more difficult and see how specific it can get uh, based on like a specific situation, like a detailed situation. And maybe we'll ask something a little bit relevant. You know, something that a lot of people might be dealing with or worrying about right now. All right, here's a good one. I've been dealing with a social media addiction. I recognize this as a negative behavior, but continuously find myself scrolling on apps like every day. It's difficult to limit myself with these apps as I use my phone hourly for work and use the apps to communicate with friends and loved ones. Do you have any advice to help me reduce the urge to scroll consciously and subconsciously? I have a problem spelling consciously, obviously. All right, let's see what it can ask. Or let's see what it says. Here are some strategies that might help you reduce your social media usage and manage your time more effectively. Awareness and mindfulness. Tracking your usage and setting clear intentions. You can use built-in features on your phone or third-party apps to monitor how much time you spend on social media. Seeing the actual numbers can be eye-opening and motivate change. That's a practical and that's a realistic step you can take because that's true, and gaining that perspective regarding how much time you're actually spending on these apps, that is like the response says, that can certainly motivate change. And the third party apps, there's plenty and they're growing and they're becoming increasingly effective. So that's another practical thing you can do if you actually want change. Clear intentions. Before you open the app, ask yourself why you're doing it and what you hope to accomplish. This can prevent mindless scrolling. That's a really good one. That's an important one because the problem that I think a lot of people face is the mindless aspect of it. They don't even realize what they're doing, that they consciously are clicking on these apps and scrolling through this like endless open-end feedback loop. But that's another thing you can practically do. Quite simply, before you even open the app, to restrict your attention in a way that's going to limit the chance of you spending more time on the app than you were hoping to in the first place. So those two alone, those are pretty good pieces of advice. Those are two things you can do that will probably have some effect. So thank you, chat. Barriers to access. Remove notifications, log out, move apps off your home screen, set app limits. Okay, these are all great too. Removing notification. You're going to be seeing the cues less likely to click on the app, and ideally less likely to spend time on it overall. I will say one thing about the notifications is if you take off the notifications, and you also are creating the kind of the allure of never knowing if you've gotten a message, and you might find yourself actually opening it up more often than you otherwise would because you are constantly wanting to check if someone has sent you a message. So just be aware of that, but otherwise that's a pretty good piece of advice. Logging out, clearly, because every time you log out, you have to log back in. It increases the effort required to log in, and then it reduces the incentive to log in overall. So unless you have to respond to someone, or you're doing something important, you might just say, I'm not going to log in today. Move apps off your home screen. That's going to reduce the queues as well. So set app limits. You can do that in your settings. That's like the third party app restrictions. And those are both good things as well. Replacing the habits. Okay, we're getting into resolve now. Alternative activities, reading, exercising, or hobbies. General, but very true. And something that a therapist would likely encourage you to do. Not that, and again, not that a lot of people are going to therapy, social media addiction, but we're asking basic questions in order to gauge what this system is capable of. And if you happen to go to a therapist for something like this, then a lot of these things are things that are going to be discussed and things are going to be brought up. You might not have as much of a personal element, a personal touch to the experience, but for some people, I would actually argue that can be a benefit as well. But let's just keep going here. Set specific times. Okay, ritualizing them. Ritualizing anything is a great way to either build or dismantle a habit. So that's a good one. Engage in offline communication. Make an effort to connect with friends and loved ones. Cliche, blah, blah, blah. Not wrong, but whatever. Mental and emotional strategies. It's getting detailed. I appreciate this. Reflect on the impact. Okay, you can be introspective. Take time to reflect on how excessive social media use affects your mental health, productivity, and relationships. This can reinforce your motivation. Mindfulness. We discussed that. Set goals and rewards. That's similar to intentions, but goals, they're more specific and you can motivate yourself that way as well. If you limit your social media time to X, amount of whatever, to X minutes or hours per day, that can create positive reinforcement. Environmental changes. We talked about the cues. This is similar to that. No phone zones and physical alarm clocks. Social strategies, telling others, stay accountable, support groups, gradual reduction. So if you're going to a therapist for drug addiction or counsel for drug addiction, they tell you something similar. Maybe tapering if you're really hooked. Tapering can be a good idea. But yeah, start small, create a schedule, and then lastly, professional help, because that's probably the best answer. But we're asking chat, and this is a what I get what dozen plus 20 points here at least that are all pretty solid points for a pretty general question. And both of these answers, I'd say, like, I like this. It's interesting. And you might not be able to resolve a deeply held trauma by just talking to Chat GPT for a few minutes. But this is purely experimental. This is purely to start the conversation of, okay, what's the potential here if we get creative with how we are using tools like this? And personally, I've asked Chat some questions and the responses they've blown me away based on the fact that it's not a human answering the question. And it's going to become more and more impressive over time. So it's just an interesting thing to pay attention to. And AI is a very, very intriguing. And I'd love to incorporate it a little bit more into this channel somehow. And we'll find out a way to do that. But this is a fun little thing to try, I think. And I'd also just say, like, just thinking again about how therapy works and what we use it for. Any time you're curious about something or you have a question or a concept or an idea or even emotion you would like clarity on, you don't really have anything to lose from asking an AI like this, because it's going to give you the most concise, consolidated, hopefully practical solution based on an insane amount of source data, which covers an insane amount of information. And when you experiment with it a little bit, you understand what its capabilities are, and you understand how to ask it questions in a way that evoke certain answers, and that's when it becomes a really powerful tool. And maybe we'll get into some more specific situations, but this is just a opening the door a little bit to see what kinds of things you can try. So we're going to keep looking at stuff like this, and if you guys think of something similar that could also be interesting to look at, then by all means let me know in the comments, and join the Discord. and give your suggestions in there. We really don't have much going on in the Discord, but trying to build it, get a few more people in there, just a couple right now. So